We're with the guys from Overdrive, Bryan Hayes and Jamie McLennan. So it's Pickard versus Montembeau tonight, but had Skinner got the nod, we would have been able to see two potential Team Canada goalies go head-to-head. And when it comes to Canadian goalies on Canadian teams for the Four Nations face-off, it seems like Skinner and Montembeau probably have the best chance of making the team, right, Noodles?
Well, I would say they have a good chance, but I'm going to throw in other goaltenders. For me, my starter is Jordan Binnington. So I think he's the outlier. I think he's the number one. After that, it's slotting in at the 2 and 3 spot. Yes, Stuart Skinner, Samuel Montembeau are going to be considered. But I would go off the board, and this isn't even off the board. I would be looking at Darcy Kemper in LA, who's won the Stanley Cup recently. And I would look at Marc-Andre Fleury. And I know people are going to say, what are you talking about? Older legacy guy, but he's won cups. He's great to be around. And if you are talking in a short span of time, a couple games, Fleury, now, he's going to be wearing a ball cap.
Right,
He's
the third guy, he may not even be dressed.
Not going to be. But I also think his impact as far as, being in the dressing, being around. And let's not forget Adin Hill. He deserves a lot of love. So I would be looking at Skinner and Montembeau on the outside looking in. Some other players, Adin Hill has won a Stanley Cup and Darcy Kemper has won a Stanley Cup recently. And both of those players, their numbers aren't great as far as Montembeau. And Skinner's been too up and down right now this season to sttableize if they're choosing in the next couple weeks.
So need to see a little more consistency, perhaps. Yeah. But speaking of older guys, Hayes, not you, but Habs and Oilers, they used to have Patrick Waugh versus Grant Fuhr. And, for the common hockey fan, can you speak for them? What is the state of goaltending in Canada
No, it's the elephant in the room in the country right now is players that you just mentioned, Sarah, and other players throughout my lifetime. It went Grant Fuhr into Patrick Waugh, into Marty Brodeur, into Roberto Luongo, into Carey Price, into Jordan Binnington. With all due respect, he doesn't. There's someone that sticks out there, and it's Binnington. And we're having conversations and debates about who's going to be second, who's going to be third. Where you look at the Americans, you look at the Finns, you look at the Swedes. They have multiple options, but they're going to have a 1A guy who is a stud. And I don't think Canada can say that. You have guys that clearly have resumes where they've won. Binnington has won before. Adin Hill has won. Darcy Kemper has won. But they weren't the reason for winning necessarily. And if it was Binnington, that was 5 years ago. And the numbers just aren't that great, Noodles. Like, they are staggering across the board how we just don't have a Canadian goalie that we can rely on, where you just know exactly what that guy's going to bring. Not just one game, because we focus a lot of times, okay, getting to the gold medal, what's going to happen in the gold medal. You got to get there. Like, you may have like a bronze medal game. You may have a silver medal on the line. You may have quarterfinals, semifinals, whatever it might be, where you need a guy to stand on his head at some point. And I don't see that guy playing for Canada right now. And I think I can speak for basically everyone in the country who sees it that way.
I don't think there's a disagreement, but it's more about, if you look at 7 out of the last 10 Stanley Cup winners have been Canadian. And, Matt Murray a couple times. But, the bigger picture is they have to be good, not great. You can't cost them the Stanley Cup.
That's the best out of 7 series, though, Noodles.
That's what I'm
if it's
saying.
A one-off, you better be ready to play.
That's my biggest challenge, is because I can't argue with you. On paper, they're 4th out of 4th when it comes to the Four Nations face-off. They just are. But they have to be good. They don't have to be great, but they can't be poor. You can't cost the tournament for your team, but you have to be good enough to help that. That's what's happened recently in Stanley Cups with Adin Hill, Darcy Kemper, even Jordan Binnington, who was really good.
He was really good.
But that's where I look at Canadian goaltending. I think it's fine, but it isn't the cream of the crop. You're just dealing with guys who are really good, just not super great.
And that's the reality right now, and it could be a tough night for Montembeau to impress the scouts, because FanDuel has odds on the highest scoring team tonight. 12 are in action. The only one with better odds than the Oilers are the Stars. And, of course, the Oilers expected to score a lot tonight.